Welcome back to another episode of the Hustle Harder Show. So excited to have our guest today, Renovo's own Andy Pollock. Andy, it's an absolute honor to be sitting down with you. It's super excited for this conversation.
No, thanks, James. I'm excited to be here. I've seen a number of the Hustle Harder podcasts, and to be able to participate in one, pretty excited.
Well, listen, we are very excited to have you. I think you've got an awesome story to tell. I'm super excited about the conversation. We've been talking about it over the last few weeks, so finally getting to put it down. For those, some in the inside might know, we've actually shot this once before. Again, due to production error on my end, we didn't have all the files. One of the files was corrupted, so we're doing this for a second time. But I think it's going to be even better than the first. So really excited to jump back in. We are sitting today in San Francisco, California, which is not far from where you live here in the Bay Area. So thank you for having me on your home turf.
Oh, absolutely. It's my favorite city.
Yeah, this is an amazing city. And this is a great time of year. It's late October. It's an awesome time of year to be here. We've got amazing weather. And I just love San Francisco. So I'm super happy to be here in general, but even more happy to be sharing a sound studio here with you and talking about Renovo California.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into it. I think, so for those who don't know, Andy runs our California expansion. You've been on the team a little over a year now, but you have a very distinguished career in the lending space, generally speaking, and I think, private lending for a number of years. For those who don't know you, please give us some background and a little bit of your journey up until now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was taking a look at my resume and someone said, "Boy, you've done a lot of different things." And I always think of my resume almost like, a dear diary. What did I do today? What did I do last week? And it just kind of builds over time. And at the same token, I also did the mathematics on when I started my career in lending, and I'm coming up on 40 years.
40 years. That's amazing.
And someone said to me, he goes, you're a legend. I don't know if that's code word for old man, but it's either way. And the furthest thing from my mind is a legend. But I do look back, and I had some tremendous mentors who I'd worked with. One gentleman was still in the industry, and Bill Dallas, with the founder of First Franklin, hired me. And yeah, it was a great mentor. And one of the key things was he was very engaged, very outgoing, very entrepreneurial. And I just look back at this, so many transactions over so many years that actually went to plan. And I will tell you, as you all know, mortgage transactions just don't happen by chance. You make them be successful. And I just didn't know any other way of going about it. So by hook or by crook, as they say, here I am, almost 40 years in the industry. And it's been one where I've learned so much. And every time I think I've learned every single thing there can be, I learned something new. And I used to always joke, I've made every mistake in this industry once, never twice. And then there's a new environment, a new situation. I'm like, shoot, I made a mistake and I had to learn again. But that's part of wisdom is having those experiences.
Well, it's the privilege of experiences that you get to find new things, new roadblocks, and it's always challenging us. But you've been incredibly successful in your career. You're being very humble right now, which I appreciate. But you've had a lot of success in your career. You've been at a CEO of a number of the largest and most tenured firms in the space, and I think we were so, in some ways, surprised, right? But honored that you would consider joining Renovo. And I'm curious, what is it that you saw in what we're doing here that made you kind of think, hey, that's the next thing I want to do?
Yeah, it's interesting, James. I don't think I was ever hired as the CEO. I was always hired as a member of the C-suite. I was always a great number two guy, a great, lieutenant to the CEO. And invariably through mergers, acquisitions, through retirements, CEOs would move on. And I was inevitably next in line. And I would be put into that job as the CEO. So my comfort zone really is being the number two guy. But it forced me to be that CEO. And I remember a buddy of mine said one time, I go, I'm not really a good CEO. I'm a good number two guy. And he goes, well, Andy, he goes, the job will make the man or the man will make the job. And that was a good slap across the face.
I love that. That's great.
No, I remember his name was Derek Park. He gave me the lecture, and then inevitably I am comfortable being the CEO. But I got to tell you, I'm not really hung up on titles. I just like having a seat at the table. I like to contribute. I tend to migrate to those things I like the most and I feel most comfortable with, and I feel I can add value. And Kevin Werner, we kind of joke about it. We call it Andy being Andy. And I'll be in a meeting, I'll raise my hand, I'll have some advice, some wisdom, some feedback, or there's a prospective candidate that I'll spend time with, or a transaction that's not going to plan, and I'll get in the middle of it. I like doing that, and I don't need a title to do it necessarily.
And that speaks to your humility, right? Because you've had a great career as a CEO and as a member of the C-suite. But I think one of the things, and I want to circle back to this in a minute, but one of the things I think we look for in people, Renovo is an incredibly people-centered organization. We say a lot, hungry, humble, and smart. And you are very humble and you're very smart. What is it that keeps you hungry at this stage in your career? Yeah. Almost 40 years in, what is it that keeps you going?
I always tell, I joke about it, but I think I'm serious. I wake up every morning like I'm flat broke. I'm like, I got to make a buck. I got to put milk on the table. I really think if I'm not generating revenue, increasing volume, or finding more efficiencies to reduce our cost to produce or something like that, I go, I think I'm out of a job, and I'm mortified about that thought, right?
So it's that constant kind of need to contribute, right? And bring value, it sounds like.
Yeah, my next door neighbor even said to me, he goes, Andy, why are you always charging the hill? He goes, you got to start slowing down at some point. I go, I don't know any other way. I'm hardwired for that. And I do find it exhilarating. I do find it fun. I do get a charge out of it. And inevitably, this job is a job that engages with people. And James, if I could tell you, how, where, when, why, I would, but I don't. But I do. I love people. I love meeting them. I like to understand who they are, what their aspirations are, and inevitably, I'm curious about them in a sincere way. And when that happens, they tend to engage more. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, you find a working relationship that's fruitful, it's lively, it's collaborative. And like I always say to people, I don't like to do anything alone. It's just hard for me. And so whenever there's a task, I'm always looking for someone to work with me. Oftentimes it's so that they do all the work and I can put my name on it. But yeah, it's something I just really enjoy.
You said something in there. I think you said the word sincere. I've always felt like one of the things that sets Renovo apart is our authenticity. I think we're led by Kevin Werner, who's the founder and CEO of Renovo. Kevin, I'm sure this isn't entirely true, but I have always observed Kevin to have little to no ego at all. He genuinely cares about what he's doing. He cares about the team, and he really wants to build something special that's going to last. And I think that that's one of the reasons that you've been such a good fit is I think you share that, right? You get up every day and you really do, you're interested genuinely in, whether it be helping Renovo as an organization with this important, expansion project into California, or if it's, working with one of your young loan officers to help them through a problem that they encounter on their day-to-day kind of journey working with clients and deals. You're really genuinely interested and really care. And I think that comes through and that makes you a great leader. So compliment to you for sure.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Speaking of the California expansion, I want to touch on that because that's a big reason why we're here. You have a great personality and you're, I think you shine in these moments. You have that kind of childlike exuberance about you in general. Another compliment to you. You're going to get a lot of compliments today, Andy. But, this is a big project, right? And I want to talk about, kind of your vision for what we're doing here. And for those who don't know, today, late October 2025, Renovo, we have offices in 37 U.S. markets that we cover locally. And, we've been a little slower as we've expanded west. I think we kind of felt like, Renovo being a Chicago-based company and our roots being very deep in Chicago, I think when we first started kind of working on this whole, growing the footprint and getting outside of Chicago and building a national business, that the East Coast was a lot more like Chicago than the West Coast, right? The West Coast has its own vibe to it. And so I think we were more comfortable going east. We felt like we understood the culture a little bit better. It was more natural. California was a market that, operates in it's kind of its own universe. And I think it's like that in a lot of ways. But, certainly in our business, lending to real estate investors, the private lending industry kind of started out, I don't know if it started out here, but it is very mature in California, more mature than it is in a lot of other markets. I think we've been patient, and that's something that I think we've always done at Renovo, is be very patient and try to make the right decisions for the long-term health of the business. But we've been slower moving to California, and I think you're a really important piece of that. But what is your vision for Renovo California as we look to really, I think in order to be where we want to be, which is the number one lender in the country to real estate investors, like California is going to be a big part of that story. And, this is the job that you've taken on, is to help us like conquer this market, if you will. And what's your vision? How do you think about this task and what it could mean? What's it going to look like in the grand scheme for Renovo in the long term?
Great level setting and expectations, James, with that question. For the most part, I really want to bring Renovo to California. What Renovo does, they do it very, very well. A decentralized sales force. Okay, let's bring that to California. We have a decentralized pod format for mortgage originations. Good, let's bring that to California. We have a multitude of business lines: fix and flip, scrape and build, small lot development, multifamily, portfolio lending, all of which, just screams of opportunity. And on the horizon, builder finance, which is underway. And California needs all the above. And ideally, you want to bring all of it so that you can pronounce that we have the decentralized salesperson in your backyard to the client. We have the team that will draw the docs and fund the loan in your backyard. We have cardinal knowledge of the markets that you work in. We have relationships with title companies. We know everyone and realtors that you're hanging out with. We're all one big happy family. And by the way, we can do all those products that you so desire and or not. We always talk about the vertical integration. Well, most of our clients aren't vertically integrated. They have their niche that they're really comfortable with. Good, let's capitalize on that. But in many instances, lenders specialize only in one venue, two, maybe three. And for us to have the expanded set of products that bring that to the marketplace is what I want to bring. I want to bring the Renovo to California, have California understands what Renovo is, and the intricacies around our operations and ultimately the products and services and solutions that we provide. And they will find out that they have other options, because that's the biggest thing, is that it's a competitive landscape, but all of our clients need more than one or two horses in their stable. And for the most part, they're actually looking for a new horse, not one that's pre-existing. There is this desire in the marketplace for a new, fresh approach to the business, a new, fresh approach to products, product enhancements, product innovation, which is well underway at Renovo.
I think you hit on a lot of great things there. So one, I want to bring it back to the decentralized thing. So for those who don't know what you mean by decentralized, what does that mean to you?
To me, it means, the famous thing, feet on the street, boots on the ground. Our sales executives live and breathe in the areas that we lend.
Yeah, I think that's a really important distinction to make, because I think one of the things that sets us apart, and this is something I would love your thoughts on as well, but I think we bring a very localized approach that not a lot of other lenders, take, right? I think most people that are lending to real estate investors are doing it in whether it's centralized or, where every salesperson sits in the same office, like a boiler room kind of a thing. Or if they have people in the markets, those individuals who are making those loans typically are not restricted to one market or another. They typically have a fairly wide geographic area that they can lend in, whether it's a region or half of the country or there's no restriction whatsoever. That's one of the things we do differently. And I think our clients really love that because they get specialized attention from somebody who has expertise, not just kind of knows the market or knows real estate investing, but knows the investing market that in that city. And I think for most of our clients, they operate locally. Some of them have grown and operate across multiple markets, but typically it's pretty centralized, whether it's the area they live in. Maybe they've expanded a little bit outside of that into a little bit broader space, but they're probably not sitting in San Francisco and borrowing on deals in Washington, D.C. and Miami and Atlanta and, Southern California. They're probably investing in a few counties that are local to them, right? And I think the ability to bring that local expertise, and to your point, somebody who also is connected in that market, knows the other players that they deal with every day, I think that allows us to be more valuable to the customer. And I do think that's different. I think that's kind of what I think that's, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what you're getting at is that, that's not offered to the average real estate investor, combined with the expansive product suite that we can offer and the quality of the execution and the competitive terms. I think most of the time when people get that type of experience, the experience we're trying to deliver to our customer, they're getting that from somebody who's very, very local and is probably very limited in the products they can offer. And they also probably don't have as competitive of loan terms and pricing and things like that because they don't have the scale. They're too small, but they can offer a really local experience. And I think we've just tried to take that local experience that you get from the attorney that is lending out his own money or friends and family money to a handful of investors at a time. You don't get, that combined with really competitive pricing and product. And I think that's something that's unique and a lot of investors want, and even though they may not know that they want it because it's not been available.
No, you're absolutely right, James. Where I would compliment what you said is that, the clients are very desirous of it. The salespeople on our team love it because they're not put on an island. They're not out in the Adirondacks. They are supported. They have a team with them. They're engaged not just with the client face-to-face, they're with their team face-to-face. And for the people that we're talking to about wanting to come to work at Renovo, we highlight for them the fact that you're not going to be put on an island. Actually, the continent comes to the island, and you'll never feel like you're going at it alone. You always feel like someone's got your back, whether it's the credit team, whether it's the HR team, whether it's marketing. You just never feel like you're going at it alone. And I think for a lot of the people that we're talking to, they're usually pretty happy where they're being employed, but there's always some aspects of pain or discomfort or a limiting factor or some sort of either a glass ceiling or constraints where for Renovo, we get very excited about what can we bring to the table for our sales executives so that they can be successful, because their success is our success. Their career advancement is our advancement. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's funny, there's a correlation between, reaching predetermined goals and happiness and job satisfaction and engagement. It's a miraculous thing. And we work really hard for our salespeople to be able to provide that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to touch more on some of those things that you said, because I think there's a lot to touch on there. But I want to talk about just lay out the big picture. Because Renovo is now in a lot of markets. I mean, I think some people would consider us a nationwide lender. I don't know that we think about it that way. I think we are looking to be a really amazing partner to our clients in the markets that we serve. And I think we think about it in a very market-centric way. We don't kind of put this blanket like, oh, we're a nationwide lender, because we don't lend everywhere. We try to lend where we have local teams and we can bring some of these values that you and I are discussing. But when you think about in 5 years from now, how does Renovo California, which is really going to be Renovo, San Diego, Renovo, Los Angeles Los Angeles area, Renovo Central Valley, Renovo Bay Area, right? How is that going to play into things? Like, what is your vision for that?
Yeah, I'd like to envision that we have 5 branch offices. We have our one in San Diego and Del Mar, run by Brendan Ochenero.
Shout out to Brendan. Done an awesome job. That's where we've been. We've been in San Diego for 4 or 5 years. Yeah. Done great there.
I'd like to have one in Orange County, one in LA, one in San Francisco Bay Area, one in Sacramento. And if there's one somewhere else and the market warrants it, yeah, we'll do that. I don't think we'll have 10, but I think a good collection of 5, maybe 6 will be in place with a managing director on top of that pod and that operations. With a support function there of mortgage operations for the origination, a sales support team, sales development reps, relationship managers to support that infrastructure, and build that out where we can deliver, decentralized products, services, and solutions, as we talked about, in a context that there's just that close. I use that term partnership, and someone always says that's kind of a cliche word, and I won't give an adjective, but James, most of our clients that we work with, they've been doing this anywhere between 7 and 15 years. Okay. And if you pull out the years that covers, it's like from 2006 to 2025. And there's been some hiccups in those markets where it wasn't fun to be a real estate developer, contractor, investor. And a lot of our clients that went through those periods of economic downturn, they got pushed to the edge, and they clawed and they fought and they worked hard and they built themselves back every time. And I'm just like, who are these people? Their perseverance, their commitment. These entrepreneurs I said to Kevin one time, never underestimate the entrepreneurship, the commitment, and the drive of the people we work with. And you watch how they've clawed back and built their businesses and gotten their MBAs through these downturns. You really fall in love with them, and you really are proud of them, and you want them to continue to be successful. And that's where I think it's just a special component of what we're going to accomplish in California. That working relationship where everyone's success is mutually beneficial to each other, and we can't do it without each other. Only with each other.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And when I think about this project and building out California, it gets me so excited, because to me it represents such a big opportunity, right? If we, Renovo's goal from day one has always been to be the number 1 lender to real estate investors in the country. Like, I remember at a all hands meeting years ago, Kevin brought up the first slide deck he ever used to pitch Renovo to raise the initial capital to start the company. So this was back in 2010-ish timeframe. And on the first page of that slide deck, it says the goal is to be the number 1 lender to real estate investors in the nation. It wasn't in Chicago. That was the big goal. And we started with Chicago and really spent a lot of time building the platform and the infrastructure and laying the plumbing that would support what we're doing now and beyond. But in the long term, I think California has the potential to be the biggest market that we're in. I mean, it has to be, and I don't have the numbers at hand to back this up, but it has to be the largest volume of loans, certainly dollar-wise, like maybe not unit count, because the loans out here are pretty big, depending on where you're at. But like, if you think about the opportunity that we have in California, like, I think in 5 years, this could be the number 1 market for the firm across the country because the loan amounts are large. There's a ton of activity out here, and there's a lot of aged housing that needs to be renovated, right? Which is a big part of what we do on top of the new construction stuff. And so it's very exciting because I think in the context of that one big goal, right, to be the number one lender to investors in the country, this is a keystone piece of it. And we've been in San Diego and we've proven that it works here. We can be very competitive, I think, in terms of product and pricing and all of that stuff. Now it's just a matter of building out the rest of the state in terms of those markets that you just mentioned. And it's just really exciting. And having you who has a long tenure in this space, who is a veteran of this industry, but also you've been in California, you've grown up out here. This is home. You know this market intimately. So to have you on board as we look to build this, it gives me so much confidence that we're going to build the right thing. Because, it's coming from Chicago or, I'm in Texas, California's different. It's a different language out here. It's a different culture. And so having somebody like you on the inside is such an important part of that. But I do think that long term, this is such a big opportunity. And definitely one of the things I wanted to hit on today is just how important this project is. So with that said, we've been at this. You've been on the team for a little over a year. We've been methodically going through the process, right? And we're sort of at the point where we're starting to add some pieces to the team, but there's a lot more building that we have left to do, which is great. We've always at Renovo taken our time to do things the right way, not just doing it, quickly so that we can say that we now have this California business. It's building the right thing that is going to last for a long time. And that to me is very exciting. So I think, one of the things I wanted to highlight today was what is this opportunity? Because I think it's a significant one. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to share on that, but I thought that was an important point.
California, you're right. It's the largest electoral college in the nation, which means there's more peoples. And in addition to that, the job market in California always is evolving. I mean, we went through, what was the .com bomb? We went through a couple of different downturns and just never seems to want to give up. Having warm water ports helps because that just means commerce coming in. AI being revitalized all over the Bay Area. I'm like, we didn't even know what AI was 10 years ago.
Yeah, we took a driverless car here today. It's the first time I've ridden in a driverless car before. It was great.
Yeah. And it just seems to continue to evolve in that context. So there's a lot of jobs. And jobs aren't necessarily high tech. People don't know this, but the Central Valley of California produces a lot of crops. It's a big agricultural state. And there still is a lot of manufacturing that happens all over the state. And that all drives, back to your point, their housing stock is aged, it's rusty, it's dusty, it's crusty. And at the same time, the homes today might not be rusty, dusty, and crusty. They're just not efficient. They're obsolete. They need new everything. And at the same time, the housing of today doesn't need as much of a yard as it used to. And we're seeing a new style of, I'll call it, asset classes coming out, which is really fun. And we're seeing state legislation that's helping facilitate new housing starts and these new asset classes. SB 1123 is just more doors per acre. And it is requiring our architects, and architects can do magic in building out home styles that are smaller, yet more efficient, more pleasing, more user-friendly. If there's such a thing about a house, that just make it better. And that's really fun for me in seeing what is coming on the horizon and what's in play right now with some of the housing developments.
Yeah, and the cost to build out here, the cost of dirt is so expensive. And again, depending on what market you're in, but certainly the ones that you mentioned, right? LA, Orange County, San Diego, the Bay Area, it's very expensive dirt. And so the opportunity to renovate existing, homes that, maybe are aged or not appropriate for the current market or, and of course, all the legislation, regarding, and I think all that's really aimed at tackling the affordability problem, right? California has not been known as the most affordable place to live. All of those things, I think, definitely play into the bigger opportunity here. So I think that's a really important point to make. And the other thing, and I want to get into, I guess I continue to jump down my list here, but I think that plays into sort of the opportunity as it relates to the people that we want to bring on to the team. Because I think that California is going to be an incredibly important, if not the most important market in the country. Whoever comes onto the team and takes those roles to be market leaders, which is a big thing that we're searching for right now. I think that those people are setting themselves up for an incredible opportunity in the long run to really be at the center of what is, I think, a really amazing organization that has a lot of upward trajectory in Renovo as a whole. But those are open positions, and whoever gets those jobs I think is going to be really set. Now it's not going to be easy out of the gate, right? It's going to take time. We're not as well known in LA and the Bay Area. Certainly we've built a great business in San Diego. We could be doing so much more. Brendan's incredible and he's done a great job, but there's so much more to do. And so it's also really exciting because I think this next group of market leaders that we're able to bring onto the team are really going to have a tremendous opportunity ahead of them to kind of be a really important part of what we're building. So it's super exciting just in general, I think. And again, having somebody like you to provide leadership and, that support, to partner with these folks to help them in their journey be successful and really build these markets. It's a really exciting prospect. So
yeah, when people, individuals, even for myself, what I will tout right now applies to anyone and everyone, and in particular me too. People are seeking a career, a job. They're looking for something. Usually it starts with the paycheck. Yeah, I need to get paid, right? Sure, check that box. Okay, I need benefits. Okay, check that box too. But they're looking for a role or capacity that is solving an inner need in their career. So oftentimes I used to get phone calls. Hey, I got a job. I need to hire you. Okay, great. We got a catastrophe. You need to fix it. I got to turn the company around. I'm like, oh, okay. Someone used to joke about it. I was the Winston Wolfe from Pulp Fiction. I was the cleaner, right? And I've done that a couple times in my career, and I really loved it. At the same time, at Renovo, there's nothing broken here.
Yeah. That's an important point to make. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We don't need Winston Wolfe. I also like to grow things. I like to build things. I like to be the Marines and hit the beaches in Normandy. And California, with our beachhead in San Diego, is nothing but screaming of opportunity, expansion. And I even told Kevin, he goes, what do you want to do? I go, I want to conquer something. I want to take an area that it doesn't have anything and make it have something. And to me, that would be really exciting. And be able to start with a whiteboard that's nothing on it. Because I know what we need to do, and you know what we need to do. We just need to go do it. And I go, let me lead that charge. And so for some individuals that are seeking a job that might be, clipping coupons, that's okay. Or a job where they are fixing and turning around things that aren't successful and make them successful, that's okay too. But if you're looking for something to be on the ground floor, to be able to start day one with the first phone call, the first turn on the doorknob, the first pot of coffee ever in that office, and to be able to do that day one, and then with the aspirations of being 5, 8, 10 years down the road and look back and say, look what I built. No. Look what we built. That's someone that I want to have join this team. That's someone you and I would really want, right? Humble, hungry. What was the fourth? Smart, yeah. And intelligence spans the globe, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of
street smart.
A lot of different kinds
smart,
of intelligence, for
there's
sure.
Intergalactic laxative smart, and there's a lot, and sometimes smart is spelled S-M-A-T. You're smart. I love those kids too.
That's Boston, but yes. No, but you hit on something really important, and I think what we have works. It works really well. right? I think
Yeah.
we've done a great job of building the foundation of something that is working. And so, the opportunity to step in, to your point, not to something that's broken and needs fixing. We don't have to go 2 steps back to go 2 steps forward.
Oh yeah.
But I do think that the right people, and this is, again, we're jumping ahead on my little agenda here, but I think those are the kinds of people we're looking for. It's not somebody who's looking for a job. It's somebody who wants to build something and be a part of something special, and not only be a part of it, but be a driving force of it. And for somebody who's sitting around who's very successful today and is looking, what is the next challenge for me? If I feel like I'm bumping my head against the ceiling in my current role, even though I'm successful, this is an opportunity to put your fingerprints on something that I think could be really, really big and really, really special. And I think the right people will be the people that are driven by that challenge of building something.
Oh yeah. The term no pride of authorship. No. We wouldn't have a lot of pride of authorship in this situation.
Absolutely. Well, because it's so important, right? And people are what drives our success, without a doubt. Like we have lots of technology, but we're not a technology-driven company. We're a people-driven company. We're a relationship focused company. And I think the right people are really what is the catalyst to a lot of the things that we're forecasting here in terms of the long-term opportunity and potential of this market or this state. And I think that the right people will be the ones that get really excited about the opportunity to build something. It's not stepping into something where it's like visible. I mean, you can see it in other markets, but it's not sitting there and it's plug and play. It's going to require a lot of work, and it's going to require an entrepreneurial spirit. And I think the right person will be someone like you, right, who gets excited about that challenge of building, but is maybe at an earlier stage of their career where they're ready to step in and really do the work. But I think that the opportunity to put your fingerprints on something like this is really special. But with that, we've been at this for about a year. We've had some success. We've made a few, I wouldn't call them mistakes, because I think there are no mistakes. I think they're learnings, right? We're learning a lot of things. But what are some of the challenges that you've seen so far as we've looked to come in and build this market out?
Yeah, it's interesting, James. You've been partnering with me on all of our recruiting efforts. And one thing that, I wouldn't say it came as a surprise. I just was impressed by it, was the stickiness of individuals to stay with their current employer. Now, we have a lot of competitors in California, and they're good. They have pride in their jobs too.
Absolutely.
And a lot of our competitors are really good friends of mine. So I can appreciate them. And we will go after prospects. Some of those prospects that may have worked in me in a prior period of my career. I'm like, hey, we're friends. You can trust me. You can count on me. Come on over. And they're like, well, Andy, it's still kind of a startup. Let's see you get a little more bone structure. Let's see a little more foundation. Let's see a little more framework. And then I'll do that leap of faith. I just don't want to do a blind leap of faith. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that is commonplace. And at the same time, now we stand here today, I think we've got, in total, we're probably close to 15 to 20 employees in California, and we have infrastructure. I'm probably going to jinx ourselves, so I'll knock on wood. We're going to have a record funding month in California this month.
Love it.
And that was something I'll call that stickiness. And then we have clients that I've worked with for 10, 15, 20 years. I'm like, hey, we'd like an opportunity to provide you financing. Well, our stable's full of horses. We don't have any more room. I'm like, well, you always got room for one little pony to sneak in there. Andy, we love you. God bless you. But, we're doing just fine. And by the way, you're kind of new in California. We'd be taking a chance. I'm like, yeah, well, that's good. At the same time, let's see you get a little more traction, Andy. Let's see a couple more deals and show me some examples of some deals you've funded. And that's stickiness too. But as you all know, we have to wake up, both feet at the ground at the same time, and we're going to do it again.
Well, you said a couple of things that I want to come back to. So one is, because I've noticed this about my own observation as we've done this, right? It's kind of like being on the inside at Renovo, I think most of us are very aware of how unique and special the company is, right? I think there's a lot of things that are very, very unique about it. And I don't think I'll be able to fully put it into words appropriately, but I think that on the inside, it's like, who wouldn't want to be a part of it? Like, it's been interesting that, we have had it's been more challenging than I expected anyway, bringing on that really top tier talent. There's a lot of really talented people who are earlier in their career that would be, can be a great piece of what we're doing without a doubt. But it's those market leaders, those figureheads that can come in that have a pretty deep level of experience, have been doing this for a while. They're professionals at this, and they're ready to kind of build something that, why have we had such a hard time getting those people? Because on the inside, it's like this, who would not want to be a part of this? And I think that's part of the challenge, is like getting the word out, helping people understand what we're doing. And hopefully this podcast will be a big part of that. It's kind of that, like people say, hey, build a little bit more, get a little bit, a little bit more traction, And I think a lot of that comes from people's need for predictability, for certainty, right? We as human beings, we live in a very uncertain world. And so in order to feel okay about it, we try to find ways to create certainty, right? Or the illusion of it. And I would say to anybody who's kind of maybe is sitting at another shop and is like, and is successful, right? The people that we're trying to hire are people who are not, they don't need a job, right? They are successful now. Whatever they're doing, they're doing it well. And they've got a nice thing. And I think there's I can totally understand this, by the way. It's not like it doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense that people who are successful feel like they have a lot to lose by making a change, and especially making a change to a firm that is not as well known and not as entrenched in these markets out here. But I would say to those people that it's the first movers. It's the people that are willing to take a chance that have the outsized success, right? The people who are willing to jump on early because they have conviction and they believe that the fundamental aspect is there, and that it just needs that kick and that somebody to kind of drag it towards the successful finish line. If you wait until it's all there in front of you and it's all already built, then you miss out on the opportunity to put your fingerprints on it. And I think that's something that is important, I think, for folks who are considering, or the folks that we're talking to, right, about maybe joining the team, about how I would not suggest that you wait, because when we fill these roles, they're going to be with people who, we intend to have on this team for a really long time. Those jobs aren't coming back. And, folks who are brave enough and who see the vision, right? And that's the important thing. Again, what we're doing is not right for everybody. I don't want that to be the impression. Like, what we're doing is different than the way most people do this. But for the people who see that vision and who understand the why behind, why we do things very locally instead of spread all out, and, how we focus on relationships and, excellent execution in terms of the manufacturing of the loan, the processing, the credit, the closing, all of those things, and how much detail and attention is put on those things here. For the people that get that, this is the time, right? I really believe that.
Yeah, I won't use any anecdotal. So when I started talking with Kevin, I went on LinkedIn and I started looking at the profiles of Renovo employees. One employee I looked at had been with Renovo 7 or 8 years. And she started off as the assistant to the underwriter. Then they became the assistant underwriter. Then they became the underwriting manager. And this young lady, as we stand here today, is a senior VP of credit at Renovo. And I'm like, that's quite a career for this young lady. Pretty impressed, a little jealous. But the path to get to that senior VP started down here. And I started looking at more and more profiles after talking with Kevin and the opportunity at Renovo. I just saw more and more that had tenured, and you could see the evidence of hiring the best, retaining the best, and promoting the best. And then recently, one of our executives had their 10-year anniversary, and part of the program at Renovo is you get a 10-year anniversary, you get 4 weeks off?
I think it's 6 weeks, but I think we call it a sabbatical. But after 10 years, you get I think it's a 6-week sabbatical. It could be 4.
I was just in awe. I actually sat down, old school Andy, and wrote a personal note to this individual and said, congratulations on your 10-year anniversary. I mean, what a wonderful accomplishment. What a career opportunity. And it was just like, so for me, I would say to a prospective candidate, why not you? Why don't you be the next person that becomes the SVP of credit? Why don't you be the next person that has their 10-year anniversary and gets a 6-week sabbatical? Why not? Why not now? And why not here at Renovo? It's a really fun place to work.
Yeah, I think about when we first started doing this, right? So I joined the team in 2019. We were only in Chicago, and we were trying to figure out how are we going to do all this. And I'm sure I've told that story on this podcast, so I don't want to rehash it entirely. But we knew that local was important, and we wanted to hire somebody who was really experienced, a real professional who could help us build this almost as a partner, right? It's not a franchise. It's it's all under the Renovo umbrella, and we have an amazing culture and all that. But like at the time, we had not expanded into any other markets, so we were only in Chicago. And the first person we hired to open a new market was John Shipley in Dallas. And I give John a ton of credit on this to this day that he saw something, right? John had a great career. He was very successful. He was basically running another lending shop that was more regional, covered 7 states or something. But, John was looking for the next challenge. And I think probably the main thing he was considering was starting his own lending company, right? I mean, he was that caliber of a guy. He could have started his own lending company and been a CEO. But I think he recognized that he was really good at certain aspects of building a lending business and wasn't as interested in other aspects, the administrative stuff and the legal stuff and insurance. And, there's just a million, you know this better than anybody as a former CEO. There's a lot of stuff that you got to do, and not all of it's fun. And I think John, he saw something and he made a bet on Renovo. He said, you know what, I like these guys. I think we see the world the same way. And I don't have any frame of reference for this working. There is no other example he could have looked to and said, okay, they've done it. They've been successful. So I can kind of emulate. I know that it's possible, right? He had to really step out on a limb to join the firm and hope that we could back up all the stuff we said that we could do. And fast forward, John and his team have done well north of $1 billion in loans in the last 5 years in Texas, and are building an incredible business in Texas. That is such a cool story, but it required a significant belief and a leap of faith and trust, right? Now we can show a lot of examples of how we've done this and how it's been successful. Every time we've done it in every market, it's been different, right? And that's because the people are different. And so, it's very much a collaboration of what makes sense for us to build together. But, now we have that breadth of examples of success. And so it's not nearly as squishy as it used to be. But out here, that's not the frame of reference, right? Most people don't know about us. They're not seeing our term sheets in the Bay Area because we're not they are now. We do have a presence here in the Bay Area. But I think in the end, when we're looking for these market leaders, we're looking for somebody, and it's a very entrepreneurial job. It's effectively doing a startup without having to build any of the stuff that nobody likes to do, right? We've already got the plumbing, we've already got the processes and team and the systems and the capital, the servicing. Everything is built. All it is now building the sales organization on top of all of that infrastructure. And that infrastructure is not just okay, it's excellent, right? And so, that's hopefully what we will find, and I believe, 100% believe we will, it's just a matter of time, is a few people who are willing to take that jump, take that leap with us. And I think we can show that we've got a very high probability of success if those individuals bring the best of themselves to that opportunity.
Yeah, you can almost take John Shipley, you could take Ship and just say, you're an army of one backed by an army of 1,000.
Yeah.
And I think there's this component where it's like John Shipley powered by Renovo Financial, Paul Shaughnessy powered by Renovo Financial.
Mm-hmm.
There's just name after name. Susan Baltros, powered by Renovo Financial. And there are, the list goes on. And these individuals have taken on markets and capitalized on it, and they've branded themselves powered by Renovo Financial. So I think there are those individuals that want to build a brand, but don't want to have to load software, load phone systems, write guidelines, get warehouse lines and things like that. Come on over. And that was one thing for me I learned, which was really fun. Renovo's a 15-year-old company with some serious growth over the last 5 years. Okay. I would be in meetings and I would say something and they go, no, we've already taken care of that. Oh, okay. Right? Oh yeah. Well, we know what you got about 8 years ago, or we fixed that 3 years ago. So now when I'm in meetings, James, I talk last because inevitably, many accomplishments have been achieved that don't have to be revisited. And because of that, anyone that joins the firm, you don't have to look in the rearview mirror. Again, you're not coming here to fix anything. It's all fixed. It's just to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need a lot of different people to pull this off, right? I mean, but I think one of the things you and I are really keying in on is kind of the market leader roles, right? I think for every big market, we have typically a market leader. It really is a collaboration, right? Certainly, we know a lot of things that work. We know a lot of things that don't work for us, right? So there are some things that we're not going to necessarily change, right? But I do think that those market leaders that come in will have an opportunity to really put their mark on it, right? And Paul's business in New England has his fingerprints all over it, right? It is very much in his image that he's built that in collaboration with Renovo and the rest of our executive team and operations team, and all built around a core, set of beliefs of how to do this. But then he's gotten to put his personality into it. John Shipley has built an incredible business in Texas. His business is different than Paul's because it's in John's image. So it's very much a collaboration, as long as there's agreement about the central pillars of what makes us good and unique at doing this. And I think that's the opportunity for these market leaders. We don't need 100. We really kind of need 4 more, right? For those 4 other markets out. San Diego has a market leader in Brendan. We need additional support there and both operations and sales. And we're looking for all those roles like, VPs and SVPs of lending and the kind of junior originators and SDRs and all of that. But in terms of these market leader roles, these are the critical things, right? I mean, I said at the beginning, we're a people-centered organization. It's so important because we want to have such a good, close relationship with our customer. And that loan officer is the connection point. It's the touch point between the company and the individual that's actually executing this project and taking the risk. They're the ones that have that connection point, and it's incumbent on them to translate the value that the organization brings to the client. So that person is such a critical component. They're not easily replaced. But for those individuals, those 4 new market leaders that we're looking for, I think there's a tremendous opportunity to really build something on on top of something that's already really working. It's just kind of like taking it that last quarter mile, if you will. Now, there's a lot of work involved, and it's not it won't be an easy task. And whoever joins in those roles should not join because of the rewards or the income that they're going to make in year one. They need to come in with a long-term vision. Renovo is defined by having a long-term vision. We don't do things for short-term results. We do things to build a company that will be around for a really long time. And I think somebody who sees that and who wants to be a part of something like that, this is I actually can't think of a better opportunity. In our space, I don't think there is one. And even starting your own company, if you're a top producer somewhere and you want to go start your own lending shop, this is a tough time to do it. It's super competitive. And now there's a handful of us that are at a certain scale that it's going to be hard to compete with us. It's going to be hard to go from small to this scale. I think that's getting harder and harder to do. But for somebody who's looking for that type of opportunity, but wants to take a little bit more of a fast track way, I think this is a tremendous place to do it.
Yeah, no, you said it well. I mean, the barriers to entry are very, very low.
That's right.
Barriers to be successful are very, very high.
That's a really good way to put it. That is very true. I mean, I think, 5-7 years ago, it was a lot easier to start a company in this space and grow it into something pretty sizable. Today, there's a few of us that are at such a scale that we just have some competitive advantages that are hard to replicate without a long period of time to build, to slowly build and build the track record and get enough volume to where you can start going to these, capital providers and getting the best terms, because they don't want to buy $5 million a month from anybody. They're looking for $100 million a month. And you got to build up a big pipeline to be able to take down that much. It's just really hard to do it today. I think it's much harder today than it ever has been. You can definitely start one and if your goal is to be smaller or regional. But I think getting to that middle point where you now have to start hiring a lot of staff to do it the right way, you take on a lot of overhead, but your cost of capital and some of the other expenses are still pretty high. So your profitability isn't very good. It just makes it really hard to get through that middle stretch to scale. We already have all that stuff, but we still have this entrepreneurial opportunity, right? It's like that hybrid where you kind of have the major stuff and then you can just build on top versus having to slug it out against us and some of the other folks out there that are at our scale. It's tough. And I think that's why this is such a unique opportunity. And again, why like me on the inside is going like, why are people not falling over each other to try to get that job? But I understand why. And I think too, this is a very difficult time. The market is pretty good. People who are successful at this are making good money. And I think it's reasonable for those people to feel like they have a lot at risk by making a switch, especially to a lesser known firm. And hopefully, conversations like this and others that we have, privately with folks will help people understand that, it's not nearly as much of an unknown as they may think, just because they're not seeing our name consistently in their market. So I hope that's the outcome, because I think from the inside, it kind of feels like, man, this is an absolute goldmine for the right person who comes in here and really takes ownership of this opportunity. The long-term potential. I mean, how many people I want to touch on RenovoPalooza and the culture that we have at Renovo. We're getting a little long in the tooth on this podcast, so we got to start landing the plane. But how many people did you hear at RenovoPalooza and in other kind of team settings talk about how this job has changed their life? I mean, Eric Workman said it a number of times. I heard Paul say it when I was at his grand opening in Boston a few weeks ago. Like, I mean, it has literally not only changed his life, but the life of his family, his kids. This job has been so impactful, and that opportunity is just sitting here for the taking in California. Yeah,
the RenovoPalooza. It's the annual Renovo Employee Appreciation event. It's 2 days in Chicago. We fly all the employees in, 325, 340.
I think we're around 330 at the time of RenovoPalooza.
And employee appreciation events are becoming few and far between. It's more like, here's your paycheck, shut up and do your job.
Yeah.
I made that up. It's probably not like that out in the world, but it's, to fly everybody in, put them in the hotel rooms. We went out on a boat in Lake Michigan. We had an awards ceremony at the House of Blues. I mean, go on the website, see the videos. But we announced it, and just the not corporately initiated momentum. Employers are like, I can't wait to see you in 2 weeks, or I'm going to see you in a month in Chicago, and postings here and postings there. And when everyone showed up, it was a cross between a family reunion, a high school reunion, employees showing up for the Olympics. It was just the enthusiasm. Everyone couldn't wait to be together. And the energy was just intoxicating, infectious. It was just wonderful. And then it wasn't, it didn't decrescendo. It ramped up, and then like you usually when things like that, it quiets down. Like, the 4th of July comes, the firecrackers are over, we all go home, right? No, it still is there on LinkedIn postings, Instagram postings, communications, conversations, pictures being shared, texting back and forth. It's like the everlasting gobstoppler from, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It just doesn't stop.
Great reference. It was, so I think all of this is kind of really speaking to the culture at Renovo, right? And I will say, I've been involved with the firm since we really started the expansion, and, have had a personal hand in hiring a lot of the sales staff in particular. This was the first time where, like, when we opened the doors at the House of Blues for the award ceremony, the first 100 people I didn't know. It was crazy. But what was really amazing about it is, and I think you hit on it, it was not manufactured. It was not, there's so many of these corporate events that they need somebody to rah everybody up so that it looks good and whatever. They got to kind of make people have fun. This was so organic. I remember a couple moments, and especially at the House of Blues for the award ceremony, looking around and just kind of being in awe of, it was the first time I'd seen everybody together in this expanded format. Now that because we grew by a lot of, probably 50% headcount over the last 16 months. So it was like at least 100 new people that we added last year. And, but seeing all of these people together and how genuinely excited they all were, how much they value their teammates, right? I think that was one of my big takeaways, was like how much these people value the people that they work with. And in some cases, they don't sit with those people every day. They might work with them every day, but they're mainly on Zoom, right? Because they live in different cities. And to see them come together and the authenticity of those relationships and how excited they were to be together, it was incredibly inspiring. I walked away, and the word that kept resonating or bouncing around in my head was inspired. Like, it was so inspiring, and man, it was emotional. Like I cried at the award show when Ramey played the videos that, he made these montage videos to celebrate Kevin and Daniel and the journey of all of this, and to kind of see the very beginning and videos from 2012, 13, 14, and then now, man, it was just so cool to see that. And you could tell that people's enthusiasm and energy around it was not like, okay, I'm supposed to be excited about this, like, congratulations. It was like people really felt it deeply. And there is something very magical about the culture that we have. It's hard to explain. It's hard for people on the outside to understand it, but it is very real. And it is, and I told Kevin this afterwards. So we were talking about it. And I shared with him a few days after the event. I was like, man, I am still buzzing from this from this thing and how cool it was. And his response in slightly different language was, well, now we just can't mess it up. And my response to him was, the thing, you're right. But the thing that gets me really excited and makes me extremely optimistic that we're not going to mess it up is that now we've kind of got this nucleus. And you touched on it earlier, the people that have been with the firm. I mean, we had a lot of 10-year anniversaries this year. Like a lot of people took a sabbatical this year. But you have these people that have grown up in the organization, and they are the culture, right? The culture is what it is because of them. So they live and breathe it every day. And now those people are in these key roles and are playing these managerial leadership roles within various aspects of the business. Those people are super entrenched, and they embody the culture. And that means they're hiring people that are a lot like them. And the more like that creates the flywheel, right? And in business, I mean, I got my MBA. You've been a CEO forever. Like the flywheel is one of those things you're always searching for. How do you kind of get this thing that creates its own momentum? That's what it is here. It's like you have those people in the middle and now getting into the executive ranks that have been with the firm for so long, and they just eat, sleep, and breathe this amazing culture of hungry, humble, smart, helping others, being a great teammate, really dedicating yourself to the experience that the customer gets. Like now those people are in those we have that critical mass in the kind of middle to top of the organization that I think gives us an amazing chance to maintain this, because it can go away, right? It can go away. But, I know I take it as a big part of my job. Kevin, you, all of us at the executive levels, like we have to own that, and it's on us to make sure that we keep it going and encourage it and continue to really pay attention to it, because it has to be protected. But when I looked at, after RenovoPalooza, I looked at my experience there, and I was just so optimistic that we've got all those pieces that can really maintain this magic, this kind of fairy dust that we've got on the culture over a long period of time. And that to me was one of the most exciting parts, on top of the inspiring conversations I was able to take part in, and a lot of the new team members I was able to meet, and didn't meet one person I was like that I wouldn't want to have a beer with. Every single person on the team is just rock solid. So anyway, it's just really exciting. We got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I love this topic because it's such a big part of what gets me excited about coming to work every day.
It was a tangent well spent.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've touched on a lot of things here. I am really excited for what we're doing. I'm super excited and happy to partner with you. It's been amazing working with you. We have a lot of amazing things left to do. But I do think that as we've been building a lot of infrastructure here in California. You mentioned our head count is, up in the, 15 to 20-ish people and growing. I think with the right key hires in these market leader positions, I think we have a real opportunity to do something special here, and wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. So excited to continue to do that work with you. I'm looking forward to doing more of it, and really appreciate all you've brought to the table. And thank you for coming on the show. And, any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with, or viewers, or wherever you happen to be catching this?
Well, first and foremost, thanks, James. The Hustle Harder podcasts are just phenomenal. And just to be able to be part of that legacy now of the organization, just another chapter is rewarding for me. So thank you. And, I just... move over, Rover. Renovo is taking over.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of work to do. I know this won't be your last appearance on the show, but I do thank you for taking the time. It worked out perfectly. I happen to be in San Francisco for another event. You live in the area. Thank you for coming down. This has been great, and I look forward to doing some more of these with you in the near future. And for those of you who are listening or watching, look out for Renovo California. We're very excited about what we're building here, And for anybody who, listened to this and felt like they heard a little description of themselves in some of the things we're saying, we'd love to connect with you and Andy or myself. And we've got some really amazing things that we're building and doing here. And we need some amazing people to help us get there. So if that's you, please reach out. And in the meantime, we'll look forward to another episode of the Hustle Harder Show. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Cheers.